Welcome everybody. I have a new little friend that watches my clock videos. His name's Corpus, and I'm glad you're watching because I enjoy other people watching and maybe learning. He does have a bunch of little clocks that he plays with, and he also has a Cuckoo Clock and seems to enjoy them all. So welcome Corpus and enjoy the video. Today I'm working on this clock. It belongs to Only. And what the problem is with this one, I'm pretty sure, is that a spider crawled up in it, and so it doesn't cuckoo properly. And also the bird was broke off, which I already fixed it. It was cracked right along here, or I shouldn't say cracked, it was broke off right along there, which attached the bird to that. I've got it glued. I used a paper towel once I had it together, make sure to get all the glue spots off of it, so that way it still looks clean, like there's nothing wrong. And what this clock is doing, oh and yes, I use that glue. Anyway, what this clock is doing is it doesn't cuckoo properly, it doesn't count the hour right, or it might count the hour right. It's back and forth, so that's why I say there might be a dead spider in here, or just in need of cleaning. So let's get to it. I'm going to be taking the hands off first. I'll go ahead and undo both sides here, so that way it frees up. That I can freeze up the mechanism, get the bird and the Music Man off of it. So that way I can pull the whole thing out through the back side of it after I undo the 4 screws there. So anyway, what I do is get the bottom of the wire and straighten it out. Pull that out of there. So it's free to go through. And the same with the Music Man. So the next thing I do now is I'll go ahead and take the whistle boxes out. This is a newer clock because it has Phillips screws on it, and also, let me show you up in here. Also in here we have the plastic on the whistle box, and so that also tells me it is a newer clock. So I usually do, so I don't get my screws messed up, I'll take this screw, set it aside for now, and when I pull this whistle box out, I'm going to slide that screw back into the whistle box. So here I'm going to give it a little bit of a pry. So that nail comes out. So you can see this is already fallen off. That there surprises me because normally it's pinched together so it doesn't fall off the rods that actually operate this up and down. But now this is off, you can see where it just hooks in, and that's what just keeps it in. So as you can see, this is a very small clock, and they have the music clear up at the top, and of course the chain wraps around that way up there. So now on this clock I want to take the rings off, and I also want to get them up here, take these hooks off, because I need to take these chains out, and so I can clean the works with my cleaner. And these chains, if they're in good shape, you can throw those in the cleaner too, and it'll help clean them up. But like I say, as long as they look clean, a lot of people like the dark color, because it shows antique, even though this clock isn't antique. But some people don't like them to stand out that much, so what I do is the very first one, crack that open, throw it in the dish, and I take that piece of chain off there too, and I save it. And then I'll do the same with the other side. So now that one's ready to come out. So that's what you do. Take the chains off, so it's easier to just pull it right out of there. Okay, so far the only thing I saw in here is a little bit of dog hair and dust. It still has its wire spring, I guess we'll call it right here, that holds this down, so when that gear pops it up, it's shoving the weight back down to where the teeth are, and these are the count teeth that counts how many the cuckoo will cuckoo, however many hours it is at the time. This here is the wheel that it'll, right here on this arm, it comes over and hits on here, and each one of these also tells it how many hours it actually is. So now that we have it out, this up here, let me get my pointer. Now that we have it out, this right up here says synthetic oil, and it says clock 859. Says made in West Germany. And let's see up here, it says GM, and it has two numbers, 1884288, I do believe. And then it also has a 1892176. And there's a stamp number right in here. It says A 2585. I almost guess that might be when it was made, 1985. I don't know for sure. And this here says it's a, what does it say, regular? No. Does it say, I think it says REGULA. I can't tell for sure. Even my glasses aren't focusing. So anyway, let's get this thing in the cleaner and see what we need to do with it. For some reason it's got residue there. Feels a little oily. Anyway, let's get this thing cleaned up and dried and re-oiled. Now, I will admit this is odd just looking at it. You can pretty much get this straight. You notice how this here really should be, see how there's no space for it to back up. And if you look at that, it's shoving it over. Realistically, this is going to have to be shoved in so it hangs, try to get to hang into the middle. So like I say, that's another thing that's going to have to be fine-tuned, is the way I'll put it. Okay, this is an ammonia type cleaner. It's made for clocks. I do this outside, and you can see how nice that looks. I'll take this inside and wash it with hot water. I'll rinse it off, but I'll then wash this with Dawn dishwashing soap to get everything off of it. Rinse it off really good with hot water again, and then I'll use a hair dryer on it. This is the clock cleaner solution I use. It's a ammoniated, and they do make a cleaner that doesn't have the ammonia in it so you can do it in tighter spaces such as the indoors of the house. As you can see, this is a gallon and I've used quite a bit of it. You mix this, what is it, 1 part of this stuff to 10 parts of water, and it cleans it very well. They do sell it, I think it's in pint also, and if you're only doing 1 clock or 2 or 3 clocks, it's maybe worth buying the smaller amount. But as many clocks as I use or I clean, and like I say, you can see how many times I've had to change this solution here, in which this one's getting closer to needing change because it is getting darker, but it does a fantastic job, thorough cleaning on your clock works. So in case you want to read it, you can pause it. And there you have it. I just used an old hair dryer, has different heat settings and different fan speeds, and it seems to do the job. Now I leave this on here because I can aim more of the air directed where I want it instead of all over a big body of hair. It's a small clock and I want it down inside the works. Using my oiler pin, this here, you can find it. I mean, I can give you a link, but you can find this in watch repair. The way this thing works is this here moves up and down, which opens a plunger here that lets the oil in, and you can set this onto the clock in the place you want the oil, put a drop there, and just push it lightly so the oil will come out, then you let go and it sucks the oil back up so you don't have too much oil on your works. For example, this one. So I got the dot of oil there. Now it's sucking it back up. Just leave it set there. And then I suggest, you can see this here has just been getting out used for a while. It hadn't been used for a while, and so there's a drop of oil still there. That needs to be taken off of there. So I'll probably use a tissue after I'm done oiling just to make sure I don't have any excess oil for the dust to collect on. And remember, you got a spring here, a spring wire that comes and brings this back down, so when it's ready to hit the hour, it shoves it down to whatever hour this thing's set for. Because of this here, right here's your hours. This here's what counts your hours when it's operating the cuckoo bird. Of course, here you have your lever the bird rides on, and I like to put a little drop right in here. in here. And you'll sometimes, if you're having a problem with this, if that oil isn't enough, I don't necessarily like doing it, but the spring here, I'll go ahead and put a light drop there and try to work it in around it, because sometimes the spring will hang up on here. So here we have this all cleaned and oiled, and I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the box that came in. But first, I did take this music box and I oiled it in a few special locations. I didn't take it out, and we pull on the chain a little bit and trigger it. It works just fine in there, so that's why I'm not cleaning it. Now to take that music box there out, there is a screw here and a screw here if I wanted to take it out. But this clock was actually pretty clean. It just had a few problems, and hopefully I fixed them by cleaning the works and got it re-oiled. And let's go ahead and get it installed again. Now, as I did before on some other works, I'm going to go ahead and install the chain on here before I actually stick it into the box. Now, as I've shown in some of my other videos, if you'd like to go check them out, what I do to install the chain is I figure out which way it turns. So I push it that way, it doesn't want to turn. I push it that way, and it wants to turn. So that's why I'll put the chain on this side. As you can see, I put it in part way, and you got to be careful not to tangle up in the other gears in there. Make sure it's down. And so now what I do is I'll turn this wheel, and also trying to keep this straight as I turn it, so that way the chain will drop down out the bottom. And there that one is. So I'll make this 50-50 so the chain has even weight on it, so it can hold. And I'm going to do the same with the other one. See which way it needs to turn. It's turning that way, so I'll start the chain on this side and then slowly click this, and also be picking it up so that way the chain doesn't tangle up and it will drop down also. I wrapped it around there just to hold it in place. Catch that on. It's wanting to run right now, but we don't need it to run. We need it to wind up in here. So there you go. 50-50, so it has even weight on both chains. It almost fell off of there, but there we got it on there. And now, what I'll do is I'll take this box, So I'm going to stick the shaft in that the hands normally fit on, and the hole in the box where you hang the clock, I'm going to set that inside there, so that way it normally just goes straight in, but I want to feed these chains through first. So one at a time, I drop the chain in order, drop it through the hole, and pull it through. So there we go. And we'll continue with each of them until they're all in. And then we can feed the works inside the clock and go ahead and screw it in to secure it to the clock box. So there we go. Now we'll go ahead and drop this in, making sure these chains come down. Make sure you don't bend our wires or anything else. Feed it through its hole. And that's ready, but I do have a wire I need to connect the music box to the arm that actually triggers it. So for this clock, this is the little arm. This here part here goes into, let's call it the clock works itself, and this here part will hook into the music box to help trigger the arm, or to trigger the man to come out to play. Get to put the bird on. I can still get him in there and still get the screw snugged up, but again, I have such a tight spot in there, I'm not going to show putting it in. You'll notice on these whistle boxes, this wire, you can notice how it's bent. It's meant to go in, and that's all that holds it. The back of it is hitting they have a staple in this one because it's a newer clock. That's all that happens. And that's what holds it in. Okay, I got both bellows in. I have them hooked up. And I have a pendulum on this one. Not the actual pendulum rod, but the rod that goes through this other one. It was actually bent too far out, and so it never gave it free play in here in order to operate properly. So I was surprised it worked as long as it did. So anyway, let me put on these so I can get the weights on the clock and see how it works. We got them all chained up, all the hooks and whatnot on them. Let's hang this thing on the wall and see whether she works. Now, I've mentioned in some other videos, some of the clocks actually have a hole right where the coil is, and right there's a striker. So as you can see, it's not working right now. Well, there's the wires right here, so I can adjust it just a little bit because you don't want that strike to really be touching. Just a nice light hit. Now let's get the weight on. Okay, Corpus, let's see if it works. The weight number that happens to be on this one looks like a 275. Let's try it out on the scale. That one shows it's a 290 is what it is for this clock, and that's in grams.